सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे। रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमू रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर। समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। Hari Om. We have been studying the Sadhana Chatushtaya portion in Tattva Bodha. When Upanishads give the teaching, there is not too much elaboration about who will benefit the most from this teaching. There might be mantras which are very, very short, but there is no elaboration on what that quality means and how we can get that quality. So what happens many a times with sadhakas, all of us, is that we end up studying Vedanta, we end up studying Upanishads, but somewhere down the line we start feeling that I'm not benefiting from this knowledge. Meaning, when a situation comes in life, I find myself responding in the same way that I've been responding before studying Vedanta. And this leads to some kind of a frustration also in a sadhaka. And sometimes it reaches to a conclusion saying that Vedanta does not work. All those are theoretical suggestions which are given, but it doesn't work. So this portion of Sadhana Chatushtaya is the antidote for that problem of a sadhaka, where again and again we should visit this portion and see what are the qualifications that are needed before studying Vedanta. And for some reasons, if we ended up studying Vedanta before having those qualifications, which is okay. Gurudev's grace was there. He gave us this teaching right away. It is up to us now to go back to Sadhana Chatushtaya and say, where do I need to work more? And this is a very subjective inquiry, not to tell anybody else, but this is a mirror for us to look into over and over again and see where we need to make adjustments in our personality. More we are able to do that, we will start feeling that we are able to live up to our knowledge. We are able to appreciate the topics which are discussed in Vedanta, and we also know how to live our life in this Vyavahara, holding on to that absolute knowledge. So that is the main takeaway from this whole portion of Sadhana Chatushtaya. If you want to look at it differently, in several places, even in Bhagavatam, in 12th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagwan brings back same qualities and says these are Bhakta Lakshana also. One who is a devotee of Bhagwan, they will or they should have these kinds of qualifications. If somebody has done Bhakti Sadhana thoroughly, then these qualifications should find a way to that Bhakta. So in the last session we had seen about Vairagya. We said it was Vigataragasya Bhavaha Vairagyaha. Means any interaction should not be so overpowering that that interaction, that speech or that conversation keeps lingering on even after that conversation is done, even after that interaction is done. Being able to let go of that coloring is called as vairagya. Raga means to color. Vigata raga means to have this ability not to allow it to color. Okay, that was vairagya. And then we saw how does vairagya come. It is said by satsang. The seeker, wherever there is an opportunity for satsang, no matter what time of the day it is, morning 6:30, night 10 o'clock, no matter what time of the day it is, if there is some satsang opportunity available and we have gotten a taste for this Brahma Vidya, then that taste will push this sadhaka more and more towards satsang. And what will happen in satsang? Constantly will be reminded about these things. Right? What is our goal? And also pointing out the limitations of having only worldly goals. So both when it goes hand in hand, we will develop a right perspective towards things and not get carried away by them. Then we saw Shamadhi Shatka Sampatti. The first one was called as Shamaha. Shamaha means ability to quieten the mind at the right time. Okay, so whatever emotions might be there inside, before they start becoming like a volcano, quietening it right in the beginning. And that is why it is called as Sampatti. Sampatti means it's a great wealth. That wealth which will protect us in so many situations, in so many circumstances, and also keep us moving towards our main goal. And we have to earn it. It is not something that will naturally come somehow or the other, because everybody goes through experiences. Everybody goes through these emotions and everything, but very few think about it and say, I have to overcome them. So the very first step on this spiritual path is to acknowledge that we have these tendencies right now and I'm not okay with them. Means not endorsing our negativities is the first step. How successful we are in overcoming them, that is a different story. And there is a long journey on that path. And there is also a lot of patience from our side, from Bhagwan's side, which is available. But the first step should be that we should not justify any of these emotions. Simple example is, if let us say somebody is discussing about anger. Our first impulse sometimes is this statement: you don't know, in this world, without anger, nothing happens. If we start with that front, we will end up showing anger in places where we are not supposed to show. So for a sadhaka, it is not, advised to begin at that step. Once you have mastered those, qualities or those weaknesses, if somebody has mastered, then that person has a choice where to show anger, where not to show anger. But remember, that is a Siddha Purusha's stage. So we should not try to emulate Siddha Purusha at sadhana stage. Right? Many a times, we hear so many incidents about Mahatmas getting angry. But we should not take their example when we are in our sadhaka state and say that it is okay to get angry. So with lot of patience, we should do our sadhana and take up some sadhana sincerely so that it starts, giving us these results that we are looking for. All right, so this is called as Shamaha. Now let's go to the next one, which is Damaha. Damaha kaha, Damah kaha. चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रिय निग्रहः, चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रिय निग्रहः, दमः कः, चक्षुरादि बाह्येन्द्रिय निग्रहः. Now the student is asking the question as though, oh teacher, what is this damaha? You said there are 6 sampatti, right? So what is this damaha? Dhamma is that quality where we have the ability to respond appropriately even if mind is not under control. What was Shamaha? Trying to control at mind level. Dhamma is, let us say for some reason, mind has lost control. Our response to the world, response to that situation doesn't get spoiled. So that is called as Damaha. Means it is more at sense organ level. Shamaha is more at mind level. Damaha is more at sense organ level. That is why Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji says, Chakshuradi Bahyendriya Nigraha. Chakshuradi means all organs of perception. And Adi, this word here, means everything, even the organs of actions, we should include in this. Okay, so making sure that we are very alert while taking stimuli from the world outside with our eyes, ears, and everything. And also we are very alert while we are responding back to the world outside with our organs of action. What are organs of action? What are organs of perception? Later we will see. But in simple words, we can understand organs of perception are those by which we gather stimuli from the world outside. Organs of actions are those with which we respond to the world outside. Like speech or tongue, for example, it is not gathering stimuli, it is responding to the world. So tongue becomes organ of action. Whereas eyes and ears, they're not responding to the world, they are gathering stimuli from the world, data they are gathering from the world. So they become organs of perception. So being very, very careful about both these sense organs, that is called as Damaha. So if you want to look at it more closely, what is Damaha? Means even if mind is disturbed, the ability to make sure that transactions are not soured, that ability is called Dhamma. Sometimes when you are part of a group meeting, just like this one, okay, you are sitting on one end, let us say you are this person here, and there is a discussion going on. We made a point, and there were 3 people who are vehemently opposing it. You know, whatever you say, they say that this is not possible, this is not possible. And it bothers you, right? First try to understand at least what I'm trying to say. No, before you say anything, they are trying to, cut your point. Damaha is that ability where even if mind is agitated, mind is disturbed, our response or interaction, transaction with those people in that meeting, if it is not soured, that ability is called as Dhamma. Because all of these qualities will make sense only when we are having some goal that we are working towards. So for this person, what is more important is to accomplish the work. What is not important is what have other people said to me. There was one guru, and before the student is ready to graduate from his ashram, it is a culture, it is a tradition that the teacher gives some advice. The teacher goes and says how to live in the world outside. Now that I have taught you all this, things, this knowledge is there. Now you are going to be on your own, how you are supposed to live in this world. So the teacher started saying, when you go outside, you will interact with people, you will end up meeting many people. Make sure that you speak gently with all of them. And there should be no time, there should be no day when you speak in sarcasm or you speak harsh words to people. And definitely there should be not a time when you start getting angry and use your physical strength towards anybody. This advice the teacher was giving to that student. That student said, teacher, even if somebody gets on my nerve someday, even then I should not use harsh word. So the teacher said, it is for that day only I am giving you this upadesha. If everybody is nice to you, if everybody is sweetly talking to you, what is the point of damaha? The day when things go haywire, day when your patience is pushed to the brink, when that happens, if you are able to respond appropriately, then you are a sadhu. He said, if you also start using harsh words, you also start using your physical strength, why do you even call yourself a sadhu? So that point, that this, qualities should come to help us in the time of need. When everything is fine, we feel like, things are also going okay. Maybe I have become a great sadhaka. But that moment when somebody, triggers the wrong button, that is when these qualities should come and save us. Now, somebody might ask, how do we develop this quality? How can I become stronger in damaha? So then it is said that we should take up some identity and do that abhyasa of that identity. Abhyasa means constantly remind ourselves of that identity, and that will help us respond to situations accordingly. So, what is that identity that we can hold on to? So, the best one is, I am a devotee of Bhagwan. What we otherwise say, I am a sadhaka. If that has become our fundamental identity, on the strength of that, these qualities should become our nature. Without having that as our identity, then these qualities don't make sense. Somebody might argue, right? Why should we have dhamma? You should use harsh words. You should, use physical strength when needed. They say, no, this sadhaka has a different goal now. You see, Tattva Viveka Prakara, that if we have to understand, if we have understood limitations of this world and are moving towards this goal of ours, then this quality is meaningful. Even in Vyavahara, when we see ability to not get worked out is a great quality. It will save us from many problems, right? Especially when we are representing any organization or a team, and then we are talking to someone, and people can ask so many questions, here, there, so many things they ask. But remembering that I am representing this bigger group, whatever I say has to be very measured. My response has to be very calibrated. So that ability is called as damaha. It comes through abhyasa. Means we have to earn this quality for ourselves, take up an identity, connecting it with Bhagwan, and pray to Bhagwan that may you remind us that at every point I have a choice to respond differently. So this one is called as damaha. Okay, even if mind is disturbed, transactions are not soured. So this is more with regards to organs of action. Okay, that is this portion, because we are transacting, responding with our organs of action, being very alert about those. The second aspect of damaha is being alert about inputs in transaction. What we hear, what we see, because Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji said, Chakshuradi Bahyendriya Nigraha. So Indriyas by themselves don't go anywhere. It is our own desire which pushes us to certain places, to see certain things, to hear certain things. And whether we like it or not, they come and color our mind. No matter how much we might justify and say, I just casually saw it, it didn't affect me. If you read a novel, which is, a horror novel, those ideas will come back in dream, especially for children. Now remember, something like a book can create so much impressions. What to talk about situations and videos and so many other things, how much impact it can create on the mind. So damaha is that quality where this sadhaka is understood that these things are obstructing my goal. So ability to avoid those places, ability to purify whatever we see, whatever we hear, that is called as damaha. This Shanti mantra we all keep chanting over and over again. This is what it means. Bhadram karnebihi shrunuyama devaha. May we hear auspicious things. Let it not be gossip or something about somebody, some news about someone else. Let it not be like that. Let it always be, things that will inspire us, even if it is some other, person, object, situation. Let that news come and inspire us. May we only try to hear such things. Bhadram pashyema akshabhihi yajatraha. Second line is that, this one. May we also see auspicious things. May our taste be to go towards auspicious things. There is a very Vedantic reason behind this Dhamma. This quality is so important that Bhagwan Krishna in Bhagavad Gita spoke 18 verses on Sthita Prajna Lakshana. 18 verses, the last 18 verses of second chapter. It is called as Sthita Prajna Lakshana. 11 out of 18 verses are about Dhamma. Now, can you imagine the importance of this Dhamma? That almost 60% of verses that Bhagwan has written on Sthita Prajna, man of steady wisdom, Bhagwan is telling the critical thing in their interaction is Damaha. And they are very alert where I should go and where I should not go. And sadhana has been done so that even if mind gets disturbed at some point, it doesn't express in our transaction. What happens with this, perception thing is, we have had so many janmas in the past, and we have had so many experiences in this birth also. But Bhagwan's grace is such that all those samskaras, all those vasanas which are stored inside are not awakened all at once. If you imagine, if such a thing happens, we would go crazy. If all samskaras of the past suddenly start getting erupted, we will not be able to handle it. What happens is, according to our surroundings that we have, appropriate samskara gets triggered. Meaning, if you come to a temple and see Bhagwan and have a auspicious surrounding, those samskaras which are there inside, which are auspicious, they will get triggered. On the other hand, if we go to a place where a lot of negative samskaras can get evoked, it will happen in that way. And gradually, that samskara will start forming our patterns of thinking and so on. So, for a spiritual seeker, it is said this quality is amrutam. Again, we should go back and visit second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, look at those last 18 verses, and then see, count from 58 to 68th verse. All 11 verses are talking about Damaha. So our prayer to Bhagwan is, may we get inspired, by this sadhana chatushtaya elaboration that Shankaracharya is doing, and maybe use it to respond differently in our vyavahara. Next comes uparamaha. Uparama means withdrawing. Let us first chant it. Uparamah kaha, uparamah kaha, swadharmanushthanameva, swadharmanushthanameva, uparamah kaha, swadharmanushthanameva, swadharma anushtanam eva. This is the key word, huh? Making sure that we are fully focused on what is our swadharma. And we withdraw ourselves from all other pursuits which are not aligned with our swadharma. In simple words, if we have taken up some goal for ourselves, making sure that we are keeping aside everything else that are coming and taking away our time from reaching that goal. This ability is called as uparama. Rama word means reveling. Okay, reveling or taking delight in something. If we can develop the ability to start reveling in our goal, automatically this tendency of this sadhaka will be such that that sadhaka won't allow other things to come in. For example, if we are reading something, right? And if you really like that particular author, that particular book, what is uparama there? That we have gotten so engrossed with that thing that we are not allowing anything else to come in between. Even if there is a phone or if there is somebody calling us, we say, not right now. Let me finish this, then I will come. So it is easy to understand with a novel or a book, but what becomes more difficult is having this kind of reveling in our actual real goal. So for a Vedanta sadhaka, this uparama is to know the nature of Atma. So towards that goal, in Hindi it is called as lagan. Our love for that goal should be so intense that it can keep everything aside. But of course, you can apply this for other goals also. This reveling is what will make the difference. Now, more practical way to see this. Uparama can be seen as efficiently or being able to efficiently use our time towards our goal. So let us say in a day we have 24 hours, right? A rough breakdown, I'm sure somebody will have something more, something less, which is okay. Let us say we take around 7 hours for sleep, 2 hours for personal care, everything else. Food takes around 2 hours. And work, no traveling, around 8 hours. So if we subtract all of these from 24, we should end up with 5 net hours, 3 hours time in hand. You say, no, I feel like I am 5 hours short in my day. It should have been 24 plus 5, 29 hours in a day. So that again calls us to reflect back upon our routine. Means whatever is my goal, towards that goal, how much effective time am I spending? Even within this 8 hours that we spend at work, we should all see for ourselves. Huh? No need to see somebody else. We realize those 8 hours don't actually go in work. There are so many things which are taking us here, there, and the net efficient hours that I spend in what I really want to do is very few. So this ability to plug all the other leakages of our memory or of our attention and withdraw ourselves from those things which are not a priority, that ability is called as uparama. And one thing to note here is that those things which are taking away my time are not always nishiddha. Okay, it is not that I have strayed away from my path so much that those are things which I should not be doing at all. It is not those things many a times. It is those simple, small things which are not very important. Right? It could be something like checking the news or doing some other things. Everyone will have different things which take our attention away. So uparama is a great quality in a sadhaka where they are able to use their time efficiently. And what will help us become this way? Ramanam. Means trying to make our goal so inspiring, so clear that we start getting delight in that goal itself. We start enjoying doing that work itself so that naturally we are withdrawn from other things. And different people will have different ways of getting over this, what they call as first things first, right? There are so many things I can do. I can answer my emails, I can do my other things. But do I need to do it in the beginning? When I am at peak of my attention, can I get my main work done and withdraw myself back from everything else? This ability to withdraw and focus all attention towards that one goal is called as uparama. Another meaning of uparama, now this was a transactional understanding, more applied meaning of uparama. Swadharma anushtanam, right? That is the word we are seeing now. Dharma, we said, was our goal. Whichever goal we are having, making sure that we are investing time only for that first and withdrawing from everything else. That is called as the first meaning of uparama. Second meaning of uparama is this word dharma, you can take it in the absolute sense. Means other than Atman, other than Brahman, knowing ourselves to be of that nature, leaving aside all other pursuits, at least for a short time. That ability is called as uparama. So Swadharmanushtanam eva, in some text or even in some places you will hear that it is this ability to focus only on the main purpose of life. Okay, that is called as Swadharma Anushtanam. Upanishad say Anya Vacho Vimunchata. Once you have understood this is the main purpose, don't talk about other things too much. Use your energy and time only for Brahma Vidya. So that ability is also called as uparama. Next one is called titiksha. Titiksha ka शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखादि सहिष्णुत्वं शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखादि सहिष्णुत्वं तितिक्षा का शीतोष्ण सुख दुःखादि सहिष्णुत्वं. What is titiksha? The student is asking. The teacher says titiksha is that ability to bear shita ushna, heat and cold, sukha dukkha, joy and sorrow, cheerfully, without any complaint. That is called as titiksha. Means cheerfully forbearing pairs of opposites. Not somehow or the other, not grudgingly trying to go through these, but making our mind such, increasing our ability to forbear opposites to such an extent that we joyfully go through these pairs of opposites. Of sense organs with sense objects, it will always keep producing experiences which will either be one of these pairs of opposites, either sukham or dukkham. Either it will be heat, either it will be cold. Means body experiences, different. But why should I forbear? Because they are anitya. If you spend all your time trying to just maintain one of them, they will never stay the same. No matter how much you try, those pairs of opposites are such that they will constantly keep changing. So you can't make that as your main goal. Main goal should be what you want to achieve, and towards that, these pairs of opposites will keep coming. We can do whatever we can to keep them quiet, to keep them away, but not spend all our energy towards that. So this ability to forbear things we cannot change is called as titiksha. Okay. So towards our goal, putting forth effort. So for a sadhaka, and we should always remember we are talking about mumukshu over here. Although we are discussing other practical implied meaning, we should never forget these are the qualities of a bhakta, these are the qualities of a sadhaka. And the sadhaka's goal is to understand tattva viveka. So towards that goal, while we are walking, a lot of things will come. A lot of pairs of opposites will be there. And the sadhaka has to keep moving forward. So what is titiksha? The ability to keep holding on to our goal in spite of ups and downs. Sometimes it is heat is on one side, cold is on another side. The heater just turned on over here. Then you have sometimes sorrow coming up, and sometimes it is joy. And then there is insult and praise, which becomes even more critical. When somebody praises us, making sure that we don't start flying too high. Because the higher we fly during praise, the lower we fall when an insult comes. And Bhagwan, as though is challenging us here, you try to maintain these situations all the time. And then you see whether it is possible or not. Can that be our goal or not? So Bhagwan is giving more practical advice over here. Rather than making these pairs of opposites as our goal, focus on Brahma Vidya as our main goal. Or in other words, we can say keep doing good karmas, make the goal as doing good karmas, all other things will be taken care of. Okay, and the main reason why we are not wanting to solve things at this pairs of opposite level is that they will never stay the same. Okay, and these pairs of opposites, they will never go away, meaning it will never happen that every time it will be only praise, every time it will be only happiness. Right? This creation is in such a way that both things will keep coming. We have to make sure that we keep walking towards our goal. This is a beautiful topic which is going to come up now. Let us see how much we can cover today. Few minutes we might go over. So what is Shraddha? After Titiksha, Bhagwan is coming to a very important topic which is called as Shraddha. श्रद्धा की दृशी गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु विश्वासः श्रद्धा गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु विश्वासः श्रद्धा श्रद्धा कीदृशी गुरु वेदांत वाक्यादिषु विश्वासः श्रद्धा. What is Shraddha? Bhagavan says, having faith in the words of teacher, which is the Guru, and scriptures, which is Vedanta. That Vishwasa is called as Shraddha. Shraddha is an elaborate topic. Imagine in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan has spoken on one chapter just on this word Shraddha. 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called Shraddha Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Generally, we say Shraddha means faith. But there is one more level deeper to understanding what we mean by Shraddha. So the word Shraddha opens up as Shraddhate ya vrittihi sa Shraddha. Vrittihi means thought. Shraddhate, that thought which beholds a thing to be true, that thought is called as Shraddha. Okay, that thought which beholds a thing to be true, that thought is called Shraddha. Now, in some person, we might have Shraddha. What does that mean? Means we have a thought which says that whatever this person is saying, that is true. We might have Shraddha towards some goal. What does that mean? I mean, there is a thought in us which says that this goal is true for me. That goal exists and I am having that potential to reach that goal. This is called Shraddha. Okay. And what best it can be if this Shraddha is in some Mahatma. I remember during our Vedanta Ramanam camp, all brahmacharis had to speak for 5 minutes. And public speaking is not everybody is comfortable with public speaking. They might not have been trained in that way before. They might be good in other things, but public speaking is not, everyone is not comfortable. So there was one brahmacharini who was supposed to go and speak on the stage. And there are like 300 people on one side, another, all brahmachari swamins who are constantly looking at you, paying attention to what you are saying. And this brahmacharini was from some, remote village where not too much of lectures she was familiar with. And she was literally trembling, before going to the stage and speaking. And Guruji was coming and all of us, just got up before Guruji would go and sit. And then the first speaker goes and speaks. So she was just standing there trembling and Guruji came. So she first went to Guruji and said, Guruji, I cannot speak here. That I have to speak on. And actually, she was speaking on Shraddha. She was speaking, our topic was Sadhana Chatushtaya. She was supposed to speak on Shraddha. And she said, Guruji, I have to speak on Shraddha. I cannot. Guruji just looked at her and said, what are you saying you cannot speak? Look at yourself. You are an embodiment of Shraddha. You have done so much of work for Gurudev and you are serving, over there with so much enthusiasm. Why are you afraid? That much Guruji said, went and sat in his seat. That brahmacharini spoke so well. Just 5 minutes we had to speak. She came back, spoke, went to Guruji and sat down. Now you see, if someone has Shraddha in Guru, just that statement of my teacher that you can do this. I have faith in you. Why are you doubting yourself? That Shraddha is something which will take us to the goal. Okay? So this thought which beholds somebody's words to be true, that ability or that quality in us is called as Shraddha. And the interesting thing about Shraddha is, Gurudev beautifully says it here, faith is to believe what you do not see, and the reward of which is you see what you believed in. Means for right now, I might not see it, whichever thing it is. If I already know that thing, then I don't need Shraddha to begin with. But in the beginning, I don't even see what that thing is. I don't even know what it is. So Shraddha comes and protects us there. It will make sure that we are starting to walk on that path. It will also make sure that we will reach our goal. Right? That is why Gurudev says the reward of which is you see what you believed in. In the beginning, it was only belief. Later on, it became conviction. This last example, and then we'll pause. Fire is hot. Do we need Shraddha to know that fire is hot? No, because we have knowledge about nature of fire. We are not saying fire is hot because I believe that fire is hot. I know that fire is hot. But let us say there is some youngster who has heard about atoms. He has heard that there is something called as molecule, there is something called as atom. Now that person has not seen it. He doesn't have knowledge about it. But if he has this Shraddha, that if the scientists are saying it, then it is. There is a very good chance, or it is a matter of fact, let us say, that this thing is there. I might not have seen it. I might not know anything about it, but there is somebody who knows about it. So Shraddha will make sure that we are walking on this path, we are on the right path, and that will take us towards the goal. Then once clear knowledge happens of what an atom is, how to see that atom, what are the instruments, everything, then that Shraddha itself blossoms and becomes into clear conviction. Okay, so this is a great wealth that all sadhakas have, and we have Shraddha in so many things. We have to make sure that we have Shraddha in Guru and Vedanta Vakya. We have not come to that topic yet. Next class, whenever we meet, we will discuss that. I have not forgotten about it. This was mainly from a very, day-to-day perspective. What is the role of Shraddha? Bhagwan says our personality is shaped upon Shraddha. All right, let us pause here now, and we will continue next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay. You mentioned that the story about the mango and the king. We saw Bhartrahari's story. And one of the items mentioned in the verse written by the king said that the consequence of having attachment to good values. If there are consequences of having that attachment to good values, how should we approach trying to bring and practice those values in our lives? Right. What was it? Gune khalabhayam. I think that is the portion. Means in good values, there is fear of being attacked by, negative tendencies. Vedanta's path is very thorough in that sense. Yena tyajasi tat tyaja. That is the sutra over here. That first lot of sadhana is done with this ahankara. To what? To bring all those gunas, to cultivate good values and everything. But Vedanta doesn't want us to live with that constant fear, right? Of trying to be good. Vedanta says being good should become our personality. It is not a 1 hour thing or a 2 hour thing where we try to be good and rest of the times we are not sure what to do. If something becomes our personality, then there is no, too much fear about those other tendencies. At the same time, Vedanta wants us to understand that we are not this ahankara. First step is to become sattvic ahankara, and the culmination of that sattvic ahankara is to do tattva viveka. And when tattva viveka is done, Vedanta wants to reveal us that our nature is pure consciousness, Atman, in which this ahankara is appearing. And that ahankara, which has all these gunas, will be able to receive this knowledge well, and it is not bothered about transactions anymore, because that has already been taken care of by gunas. So Bhartrhariji's shloka, the way we should understand that is, he's not saying don't have gunas. He's saying make sure that our personality is soaked in those values, what we are studying right now, right? If they were sources of fear, Bhagavan would not have written them in Tattva Bodha. The very fact he is writing is we should cultivate that in ourselves, but not use that value, virtue again to get some worldly thing. He says worldly things will come anyway. You wonder somebody who has all these Shama, Dhamma, Uparama to more than, let us say, 80%. What would be the efficiency of that person? But he says that alone cannot be purpose of life. So the purpose of life, of having gained these qualities, virtues, in whichever place we are, using that environment to gain these qualifications, making sure that we invest it in the right place. Okay, that is how we can transcend the fear of goodness also. And Vedanta is very clear on that. Purpose of Vedanta is not to only be a good person. That doesn't mean Vedanta is criticizing being a good person. So even if we can be good, that's a great step. But that is a qualification needed for entering Vedanta. Right? So it is not also that, this question we had seen last time, that one day I will become perfect in everything and then I will start studying Vedanta. That day will never come. This, waves will never stop in that ocean, after which we say we'll start swimming in that ocean. That will never happen. We should start studying Vedanta whenever we get a chance, but also start paying attention to our sadhana chatushtaya. Okay, so I hope that clarifies this question. All right. What does offering all our actions to Bhagwan exactly mean? How does one offer our daily routine activities to God? This we have seen in Sadhana Panchakam also. Tene shasya vidhiyatam apachitihi kamye matistyajatam. The first verse only had this sadhana. If we can understand an example, with that probably this thing becomes more easier to understand what is being expected out of us. One of the famous examples given in Vedanta when it comes to remembering Bhagwan in all our work is this one. In the villages, there are many, ladies who go to get water from the well. And sometimes they don't only keep one pot, they keep multiple pots, like 1, 2, 3, and one more pot in the hand also. And they generally don't go alone. They will go with a group of friends. All of them together will go. And they'll be giggling, they'll be chatting, they'll be talking. With what? With 3 pots on their head and 1 on their hand. example we should understand carefully. Don't go here and there. Just focus on what is the main point of this example. Now, what is happening there is, in spite of all the talking that they're doing, in spite of all the, you know, jokes that they're sharing, the stories that they're telling, one part of their mind is always on that pot, right? Mind has this unique ability that no matter what it is doing, it can always remember something else also. So they never lose sight of that pot which is there on the top while they are doing their other things. So in the same way it is said, our action should also be such that we should not forget Bhagwan while doing those actions. Right? So that is the sadhana which is pointed out. And Bhagwan in 12th chapter, I was discussing with one study group recently. He says this is not going to happen naturally. Don't be under this impression that one day suddenly I will start remembering Bhagwan in all my work. I will start seeing Bhagwan in this creation. He says no, it will not happen like that. It will happen through abhyasa. Abhyasa means what? Conscious, repeated practice. So understand the importance of this, prakriya, understand glory of Bhagwan, and then put forth effort in doing that thing. Okay. All right. I know there are a few others and also some submitted today, but we will pause here. And then see when we meet next time. We will